All right, happy Monday, everybody. It is the third installment of the conversation or interview with our guest speaker or guest, I should say, Dr. Drew Smith. We continue our conversation about Jungian and archetypes. We're going to specifically talk a bit about the concepts of alpha males within modern society, and we're going to unpack that through this last conversation. Again, hope you're enjoying this, and we're going to go ahead and roll the titles and get right into it. Let me ask this question because I like how you're kind of putting this in the context of cultural, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
So let's lean into there's this concept of the alpha male.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's
You
making
know,
resurgences and beta and gamma and all of
yeah,
those
yeah.
things.
Well, yeah, yeah. I'll say, and
Yeah.
I'll be upfront. Like a lot of people try to categorize me as an alpha male. My comment is, I know my characteristics. I'm not alpha. A lot of
Right.
people think I am. I'm a different not archetype. I'm a different categorization. But let's
Sure.
talk about the alpha male. Like there is a version of the alpha male that is not toxic, is there not?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So maybe let's
Correct.
talk about that a little bit.
I think, well, especially in leadership, the alpha male is the leader, right? It is the one who is
Yeah.
out there trying to, I mean, I would argue we see the alpha male as something negative, right? Culturally, it's toxic. It's, because that's the model that has been presented many times.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a way to bring that alpha male energy without the behavior that we see, right? The
Without the
energy is
negative, without the negative,
without the
right?
negative, right?
Yeah.
And we can look at and by alpha, a lot of people let it go to their heads. It becomes an ego boost thing, right? And
Yeah.
we don't want that. What we need are men who are willing to step up and do the right thing for the people in their circle, for the people in the world. To me, so I have been sitting with this for a while, but I really believe that empathy and curiosity are the two things that will save humanity. Because I feel like we're kind of in
Okay.
a little bit of a nosedive right now. But being
Okay.
empathetic,
Okay.
being empathetic and
Okay.
curious, if we could step into those, even as alpha males, right, or that under that moniker, even to
Sure.
step into curiosity and empathy means I'm not an alpha male looking out for myself. I'm an alpha male looking out for my pack, for my tribe, for my people that and I'm stepping into the world with them so that I can
Yeah.
slay the monsters for them or with them or alongside them. You're not taking charge, but you are coming alongside, I guess.
There is I'll say because I know this, but I'm gonna say it out loud because I like to be Captain Obvious. There is a place for strength with an alpha male.
Yes.
Now I will say, and I'm not gonna say that I want to be careful because I understand there's toxic versions of the alpha male. I'll say that is when, and I think you alluded to it, and I wouldn't mind if we could maybe comment on it a little bit more. Maybe that's the ego out of control. Is that a
Mm,
fair statement? Or maybe it's a combination
yeah.
of the tyrant archetype,
Yeah.
right? That has
Yeah.
taken the leader tyrant archetype that has started to take over and it's controlling and it's punishing
Yeah.
and it uses its power and its strength to control and punish those who do not, in essence, adore
Fall
it.
in line. Right. They don't fall in line.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So, but you're saying, I like your commentary. So it's interesting. So so you say empathy and curiosity, right? You think are the right path forward, regardless of your whether you're alpha, whatever.
Mm,
Now I'll say in this interesting commentary, let's key into that on the leadership perspective.
yeah.
Like, where do you think that fits in this larger, like, discussion of Jungian and archetypes and leadership and ways to make positive change?
Hmm.
So like, keep in mind you're like the goal of the viewer here is like they're leaders or emerging leaders. So why would they want to wrap their arms around being empathetic and curious as a leader to have that be beneficial?
That's the best question ever. Um,
Yeah, hit us with it. Let's hear it.
so I've had leaders in my life that
Okay.
I would go, I would do anything for. I will follow them to the ends of the earth because they have been such a powerful force in my life, right?
Okay.
And the power that they bring is it's the strength to um, not see me as someone to combat, but someone to come alongside, right?
Okay.
Those are the leaders that respected my vision, my opinions, my perspectives, right? Those are the leaders that have said to me, hey, I don't like what you did. Can you explain to me what happened? Rather than coming at me and saying, you're a this and this, right? It's this whole total downplay, right?
Yeah.
The minute we step into curiosity,
Yeah.
we take away the combatantness of it, right? Where
Okay.
so for example, I'm in a meeting and someone looks at me and they say something really snarky and awful and really makes my blood boil and I can feel the complex rising up, right? The minute I feel that
Right.
tension in the pit and right, you feel it physically and the sweat comes out. The minute that happens, if I step into curiosity and say either, why is this happening to me? Or what is it that they're trying to do? Like, are they really trying to attack me in this point? And if so, why would they attack me? Something else has to be going on in this moment for me to be experiencing this tension that I'm feeling, right? Instantly, the curiosity drops my defense mechanism where I want to fight
Okay.
and takes it to a different place.
Okay.
Now, if I get curious about it, I can say, hey, I'm going to assume that you didn't mean to come across that way. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on or what's really prompting this, right? That curiosity then can lead to empathy where they can say, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. My kid was, sick today and this is happening and, my bank account got hacked. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, okay, I can empathize with the reason that
Sure.
you're giving me this attitude, right? The reason that I'm the
Sure.
recipient of all the stuff that you've got going on, right?
Sure.
Curiosity removes the defenses and allows us to get rid of or to move beyond the need to be right, right? It moves us beyond that
Okay.
and
Okay.
into a state of trying to better understand other people. The minute we do that, we don't create a wall, we create a relationship. And I do believe that
Okay.
leaders need more relationships, and those are hard. They're
Okay.
hard because you can't control them, right? It takes two to have a relationship. And leaders
Yeah.
often want to control because you're leading, you're supposed to
Um,
lead forward, right? But
I would argue control is an illusion.
yes, exactly.
So,
Totally. But
it is,
again, control is an illusion that's prompted often by our own egos, right? Like we have to show up in a certain way. We have to control so we don't look stupid or so we don't fail, whatever, failure is these days. I don't know. Failing is one of those really weird words. I don't like the word failure anymore because it has such a negative connotation. But to take failure and look at failure through a different lens to say, hey, this isn't failure in terms of, the world hasn't ended. You're not dead. At the end of the day, if I have a really crappy day, my wife would say to me, but did you die? Nope, I didn't die. Well, then it's not the end of the world. It's not a failure, right? It's not over.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It is context is important.
Yeah.
But I'll say I want to back up because it's interesting because like you're hitting a lot of topics that I'm like, yeah, yeah, let's unpack this a little bit more. And
Perfect.
so yeah, I mean, I hope you're enjoying yourself. I'll say it's been a good, very good conversation. So, um, let's talk about the ego
Yeah.
because I want to talk about ego because I actually had now you and I haven't talked about this, so we'll figure out how much of this I want to unpack. Um, it was interesting. I was away on vacation from work. Okay. Um, and of course I was getting assaulted on text, from some people at work. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to get into too many details. But I'll say, and I started to realize like, okay, why are you like, they just texted you something. Why are you reacting this way? Okay. So, which I think it kind of aligns with some of what you're saying, right? Like, I'm like,
Complexes.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm kind of like, well, what's going on? And then I'll say that in where I'm going with this, and I would love your commentary on it, is I kind of discovered in that moment, in having an internal dialogue, some of it came down to, I'll say it expanded out into some active sessions and interactions, but it became clear to me, like I will say in the event, in the analysis, and sitting back with myself and kind of doing that, let's sit alone on this concept and think about this and let's let this settle in. I really
Mhm.
kind of came to this really weird I don't know if I should say weird, but I really came to this really different place that my opinion was I literally was like, my ego is just doing whatever it wants.
Mm,
I haven't given it, I haven't interacted with it in a way to say, listen, I understand you're trying to protect us, but
mhm.
that's not positive. That's not working for us.
Right.
Your goal should be this. This should be your goal. And so there's been, I will just simply say, ever since then, when all of a sudden I'm like, I'll see stuff come in and I'm like, wait a minute, like the ego is starting to mount up again. I'm like, wait, that's not our deal. You're trying to protect something that doesn't benefit us. What are we doing? Does that
Yeah.
kind of make sense?
Sure. Absolutely.
Like from the, I would be curious, especially from like the Jungian perspective, in the ego perspective, like how does the is do you can you provide any info on like how does the ego develop? What was his perspective on it?
Mm,
And what is his suggestions on it? I mean, I kind of shared like I very much came away with like I think in essence the ego was more focused on being right than
mhm.
in protecting like, oh, you've challenged our identity, or you've challenged our our ability to be right. Well, wait a minute, why am I concerned about being right? I would rather
Right.
win. Do you know what I mean? Like winning is
Yeah.
more important than being right. Does that, anyway, I'll stop. And
No,
any
I think you're
commentary?
right. I think that ego is the I think it has to, when we think about it, I think our experiences in who we are and how we show up in the world and how we're accepted in the world,
Okay.
right? I think that has
Yeah.
a part of it too. Um, Early childhood has a lot of it. Like the ego is the I, right? That's the part of us who we see as ourselves or as a part of us or as
Yeah.
everything that makes us us, right? Or makes me me.
Is that, yeah, sorry, is that the self, or is that the self with the mask?
I would say that's the self with the lower S self, right?
The
I would
lower
argue.
us self. Okay.
Right. So, and higher S or upper S, uppercase S self would be like divinity, right? Like the God.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this small S self would be like me, I. It's the
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that encompasses, my the anima, the animus, the ego, the shadow, the self. That's all the self. And anima and animus is that's a different beast all entirely. So we'll leave
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I
But
know.
this whole idea of what makes us us when we feel confronted or when conflict happens that challenges who I am as an individual, as a, what my role, whatever it is, that's the stuff that my ego gets damaged in those moments, right? Or if I feel embarrassed,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say, the ego is it is the totality of us that would include, part of it would include the shadow, it would include the persona, it would include the things that make us us. I don't know how else to say it but that.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
And but we can shift that, we can change that, we can through the process of consciously looking at the shadow, looking at even our persona. How are we showing up in the world, right? I may be one way when I'm in front of my students, but I'm a totally different person away from that, right? I put on a persona there because I'm acting a role, I'm playing a role. I am the professor, I'm the
Yeah.
the guy up in front
Yeah.
who's supposed to be teaching you everything. But really, my ego is something different than that. It's more than that. And it's much more fragile than that. Right? It's much more
Okay.
scared
Yeah.
than
That's a
that.
good point. Yeah.
So
So we have different components
yes,
within that ego, because I like how you like clearly, I mean, I'll just say I think everybody knows this, like who we are at home is different than who we are at work, right?
exactly.
Those
Yeah.
are two different, I'm not going to say like we have entirely different personalities, but you're, as you said, you're playing a different role.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say the ego is kind of the totality of that, right? It's that's a role that I
Okay.
encompass. The same with my shadow, right? The shadow can affect my ego too, because the shadow, I'm shoving it away because I don't want people to know about that stuff, right? So my sense of self is still encompassed with this shadow and with this persona and all of these other things that are very archetypal, right? Um, plus my history, plus all that I've grown
Yeah.
up believing about myself and the challenges I've had based against myself. So when, it's kind of like when you get in line, you get in a queue line at Disney World or something,
Okay.
and you've waited 4.5 hours to go on this stupid ride, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I'm waiting for so long to go on this ride, and I get right up there, and the ride shuts down, right? And my ego is bruised. I'm like, it's me, all about me. I've waited for this
Yeah.
ride. Why are you doing this to me? It has nothing to do with you, right? But
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
our ego gets really caught up in that kind of stuff.
How dare you? Do you know who
Yes,
I
how
am?
dare you? Or you get a park hop, someone with a fast pass or whatever, and you're like, right?
Those darn
Why are
people, I'll
you
tell
better
you.
than me? Right? That's all ego driven.
I
It's
know.
how you feel about yourself. But I would argue it's not tethered in your core identity. It's kind of like this surfacey identity because oftentimes the core we forget. We get detached from it when we're not sitting with ourselves in silence or understanding ourselves, knowing ourselves. That's how we get to the core. When we can drop down below past the ego and get to that core of who we are, the self, then I think all of that stuff kind of dissipates. It doesn't matter as much. I don't my ego is not bruised when you come at me. My ego is not it's not in danger. My ego is not challenged because suddenly the meaning of who I am has nothing to do with what's happening out externally. It's all
Yeah.
internally. Like it's that locus of control, right? I'm in control of me, but it's knowing who you are and what to be in control of. That's so
Yeah.
hard for us to get
It's
to.
interesting you say that. So again, and we'll try to wrap up here in the next few because I know we've gone a little bit long. But here's the question I would have: does everybody really even know who they are? And
Oh
I know
God, no.
dude, I know I just dropped the
Yeah.
giant bomb on the conversation, but I'll be honest. Like, so here's we'll wrap up here in a few, but I'm sure I'll have you on again. I'm sure there'll be other things that we'll want to dig into, but um, I think I've shared with you, like I know a lot of the students who work with me know I actually have digital twins of myself. One specifically I use and have trained, and it works on interpreting both my dreams and my active sessions. Because the problem with trying to interpret what's said in an active session, it's not always literal. There can be other
Right.
things that come with that,
Right.
right? That's what
Right.
I've learned, like from the Jungian perspective. It's not as literal as you think it is. You have to
No.
be very careful. You have to be very, very careful about that. But in collaborating with it, and sometimes I like when I'm driving to campus and things like that, I have conversations with the twin. I have this one that's the Jungian psychology twin. And one of the interesting things is in recent discussions, we'll go back to I'm not going to unpack all the details, but I actually had conversations with it about, so I'll say my brother's passing. That
Mhm.
is clearly a critical event that shaped my psyche and
Yeah.
my perceptions and things. Um, and the irony is that I have held a lot of perceptions and conclusions of why that was difficult. The irony is in the interaction, as I've worked with ego and kind of I don't know if I should say calm that down, but kind of got it into a healthier place. I
Mhm.
actually came away with, yeah, none of the reasons I thought that it was traumatic was why it was traumatic to me.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I'll say, maybe you and I'll have a conversation off camera about that. But it was telling. I
Yeah.
literally, like, as you can imagine, I'm like driving to campus and all of a sudden this, kind of epiphany moment happens in not because it said it, but because I'm having the conversation. And then it makes me realize, like, oh my God, like, this is the real reason this was the issue. And it was like, well, that just changes it literally, it was to your point, like, I just took off these really darkly shaded glasses and went,
Yeah.
son of a gun.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like this has fundamentally shifted my comprehension of everything I've done.
Which is such a phenomenal experience to have, isn't it? I mean, it's
I,
like,
yeah, I do want to, and I am serious. Like I do think as long as you're willing, not necessarily immediately. We'll find some more. I know we'll have some more topics. I am promoting active and I'm promoting understanding Jungian psychology and archetypes because of one, the personal breakthroughs that I've seen, but I've also noticed like just to be frank, like I've had my wife has said, well, I think I might want to start active. She's made comments to me about that. She said, Dave, you're extreme, you're way more patient with me than you've been for like we've been married for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, so like almost 30, well, over 20 years. And
Yeah.
she's like, within the last year or two, like your patience level with me has changed.
Yeah.
She's
The
like,
shift.
she's like, I can see what's happened with you. She's like, I can just, I know, like with the way that you're operating now, you're not, she's like, you're not as edgy as you've been in the past. She's like, you're in specifically, and again, I mean, it's not like we weren't getting
Yeah.
along or anything. It's not that. It's just that different things like, yeah, I don't like the ego is not as challenged. There's just
Right.
different things that's happening. It's okay, what's going on? And then like you were saying, like I'll say your comment about empathy and curiosity, I'm willing to open the door and go, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
why are you feeling that way? What's the deal? Well, this is happening. Oh, okay, I got it. Kind of thing. So, but yeah, I bring it up because I'll say personally, I've seen like my leadership style has shifted. I've had a lot of different litmus points in my leadership style over the years that different things have happened. But like the irony here is I will say I've seen some folks say like, oh, you can confront these issues and you can do that kind of like in the conscious setting. And in my opinion, I mean, this is my opinion. I mean, and you got the doctorate in psychology, so I'm going to let you have the final statement on this. But my view is, I don't know that everything. I don't know that you can objectively, logically work through everything.
Right.
I think and that's why I'm very prone on this. That's why I bring it up. I've got some more books in the works. I lean into the shadow in what
Yeah.
it does to us because I fundamentally, based off of what I've worked through, what I've been able to change for me personally, I'm just sitting back going, if I can just give that to one or two other people in this world, I've given a lot of good back.
Yeah. You're absolutely right on just the you can't do it without getting down to the depths. And the depths, that's why they call it depth psychology, right? But going down into the depths means you're going to be confronted with the beast. You're going to be confronted with the things that you don't necessarily want to see or get to know.
Yeah.
But once you do, like as a kid, I hated going down in my basement, the back part of my basement. I hated it. Scary as all get out, right? Because the
Yeah.
back part of the basement is dark and dank and, cement everywhere and bugs are all over. The minute I actually went in there though and just looked around and years later I'd go back to my mom's house. I looked through the basement and find old toys and find, pictures. I'm like, oh God, this isn't really a scary place. I just assumed it was, right? Um,
Yeah.
I think you have to look at things through the lens of going down into those depths and trying to be very curious about understanding how something that happened to you 40, 50 years ago is influencing you in a massive way, like influencing the direction that you look from back then. That logically, that doesn't make sense, right? Logically,
Yeah. Yeah.
it shouldn't make sense, but that's what happens. That's part of that's the mystery of being human, right?
Yeah.
So anytime we do get to go back and look and unpack and get curious and get empathetic, even with ourselves as a child, right? It's very hard to forgive ourselves
Yeah.
sometimes. Being empathetic with ourselves, it's huge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anytime we can do that, we're going to uh, smooth out some of those rough edges. We're gonna become
Yeah.
more integrated. We're gonna become more whole, right? And which is hopefully, and this is one thing I don't think we teach enough of, but that we need to be whole people. We need to show up in the world
Mm.
as entire beings rather than you just get a little piece of myself, right? It's not
It's
fair to those around you and it's not fair to yourself because then you're having to cut yourself up into all these little pieces. No one needs that.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I'll use this individuation process that in essence, is the journey that you go on with active.
Yeah.
I actually will say I actually feel like I really know better who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
to me,
Yes.
like that, I've done a lot in my life. I mean, I've
Yeah.
had a lot of different successes. The irony is that getting that comprehension and getting that, that brings a level of peace that I don't know that to lean into your point, the ability to be a whole person is a gift that I don't think I think you're 100% right. I don't think we do that well as a culture or as a society.
We don't.
So,
If I may, I'm going to go a little political for a half a second because I
sure.
think we're seeing a lot of that play out in the culture when we're looking at, even the trans movement that is going on. People are not feeling like they can authentically show up as themselves. However, they've also never sat long enough with themselves to understand who they need to show up as, right? It's two sides of
Yeah.
the same coin. And it's not just located in the trans community, but I'm saying that's the most visual. I mean, visually, people will say, "Well, this is who
Sure.
I am," and they will present a certain way. But even in that presentation, we're not getting all of them, right? We're getting an aspect of
Yeah.
them
Yeah. Yeah. And
that they're trying to find healing through. Absolutely.
yeah, I would argue are people who I'll say, present as normies, are they even
Right.
embracing what what they truly are? And I'm not talking about, I'm just simply saying, do you even understand who you are as a person
Right.
and
As
what
a as a
what
human.
as a human being? I don't know that a lot of people know that.
No, we've
Um,
lost the ability to figure that out. I
yeah.
really feel like we as a culture have lost that, or at least we've shunned it because it's messy and it's gross and it takes time. And we're not we don't take time in our society, right?
Well, we don't, yeah, we only have 30 seconds to read the latest tweet, right? On
Exactly.
X. So, but yeah, it is, no, awesome stuff. I'm gonna wrap up. I appreciate you coming on.
We can do a
We
part two
may end up,
sometime.
what's that?
We'll do a part two sometime, Why
Well,
not?
we might have two or three parts out of this one. So we'll
I
see.
love it.
We'll see how it carves out. I'll make sure you know when it goes up. But I appreciate you coming on.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. And thank you again.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, that marks the end of our conversations with Dr. Drew Smith, our guest for this particular session. So if you're enjoying the guest conversations and interviews, obviously please provide some feedback. That would be super helpful. And if so, we'll continue on with those, and we will see you next week for a regular episode. Have a great week, everybody.